Miller, thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Show. It's great to connect with you through a network that's been a labor of love for us for a number of years. Live in downtown Charlottesville, less than 2 miles from the University of Virginia, right down the Market Street Road of the Charlottesville Police Department and a block off the downtown mall and the courthouses of Albemarle County in the city of Charlottesville. Today's show is all about local. We relay national stories and we localize them. We take local stories and we unpack them even further for you. That's what we've done today. Although the top headline is cut off, it just crushes my soul when that happens. Producer and director Judah Wickower. If we can find a way to make sure that never ever happens again, that would really make me happy. Production, the actual N is cut off on the headline.
Yeah, there's a slight difference, I think, between the opening and
the editor of me
and the personal.
Newspaper. If you could update that in real time, that would help me sleep tonight. The perfectionist of me is just getting whittled down like a number 2 pencil. Neil Williamson's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. He offered some commentary today on inclusionary zoning on his website. Mr. Williamson does a bang-up job. We've talked about inclusionary zoning on this talk show in the past. If you're a developer in the city of Charlottesville and you're thinking of a project that's going to be 10 units or more, then 10% of that project needs to be affordable housing, inclusionary housing, tied to area median income, tied to 60% of AMI, and it must stay that way for 99 years, which is just effing bananas. We'll talk about Neil's inclusionary zoning commentary on the Free Enterprise Forum. He covers a recent report from UC Berkeley's Turner Center for Housing Innovation, authored by Shane Phillips of UCLA's Lewis Center for Regional Policy Studies. This report basically says inclusionary zoning is going to further harm and diminish housing production. I'm going to unpack this without fancy lingo for you, the viewer and listener on today's talk show. Also on today's show, we will let you know we hinted at this in previous shows. I did it in a way that was tasteful and mindful and did not have me speaking out of turn with the real estate circles I run in. The Kilwin's building on the downtown mall is now active and for sale. The owner of this building, a friend of mine, Charlie Kabash. Mr. Kabash owns a number of parcels around downtown Charlottesville, a number of buildings, including one we talked about last week, the soul food joint, the old salad maker, Sean Jenkins' old restaurant, the soul food joint, which is now currently vacant and seeking a tenant. The one we will talk today is the Kilwin's building that has an asking price of $1,600,000. I have those details to relay to you, and I can speak freely even more on this potential transaction or this opportunity. Also on today's program, I want to highlight the Albemarle County school budget, a whopping $270 million, $269,400,000 to be exact. If I told you it costs $270 million a year to run the Albemarle County public school system, how would you respond at a cocktail party? I have you cornered by the bar, the open bar. I'll have a Angel's Envy in my hand, neat, perhaps a double. Perhaps you're enjoying a gin and tonic, a gin martini, a glass of Chardonnay. We are sitting right next to the pigs in a blanket. God, those Vienna sausages wrapped in those croissant rolls. Whew. You and I are munching on a pigs in a blanket while having a libation, and I say to you, $270 million is what it costs to run the public schools of Albemarle County. How would you respond? I want to talk about that on today's program. We'll have a little bit of fun and talk local luminaries walking by Market Street. Judah, if you want to show our Market Street camera, a new addition to the I Love CVille Network. We now have 7 cameras in operation in this setup. The Market Street camera we'll have some fun with as local luminaries walk by, and as Jumping Jack, Judah Wickower and I do our 10 jumping jacks for some of the most notable individuals that walk by our Market Street studio. I'll ask you this question on a different topic. What real estate area will UVA target next? My answer could surprise you. We know that UVA is making a push down Ivy Road. We celebrated late last week. In fact, there were 2 grand openings, basically, of the UVA Data Science School, a school funded by a friend of the program, Jeffrey Woodruff, not just a gentleman, not just a scholar, not just a talented stock and equities trader, not just a philanthropist, not just an excellent squash player, but you can make a convincing argument that Jeffrey Woodruff has done more to influence the University of Virginia, save anyone except for Thomas Jefferson. I believe the total contribution in the $180 million vicinity to UVA, his alma mater. I mean, I want you to think about that. $180 million in contributions. This is all public record from one man and his foundation. A convincing argument that this guy's done more for UVA than anyone in the history of the school except for its founder, Thomas Jefferson. So I want to ask this question. Which area, once Ivy Road has been completed with development, will UVA target next? My answer could surprise you. We'll also talk about the least toxic social media platforms out there. Guess what? It ain't Twitter. That place, a cesspool. And on this show, we will chitter-chatter the fact that Tony Bennett's basketball team is the only team in the Atlantic Coast Conference without one single ACC, without one single transfer portal commitment. Every other team in the conference has got one guy committed to the program through the transfer portal. UVA has 0, zilch, nada, ladies and gentlemen. And that should worry all about us. Judah Woodcower, one of the key members of this team. Why don't we go studio camera and then welcome you on a 2-shot as we'll talk Neil Williamson and inclusionary zoning. Support the Free Enterprise Forum. Give Neil Williamson a high five. Give him a chest bump. Give him a fist pound. Better yet, donate to his efforts. The man is a watchdog for this community that is clearly a community that needs more watchdogs. You want to set the table on inclusionary zoning? Why I think it could be great. Oh, we should give some props to Dino.
Definitely.
Dino's Wood-Fired Pizza of Move-Through and Basta Pasta. He's opened 2 locations at Pro Renata.
Yep.
A Move-Through and a Dino's.
Yeah.
Support the Move-Through and support the Dino's at Pro Renata this weekend. Go to Pro Renata and see what all the chitter-chatter is about. Dino's got a Move-Through at Pro Renata that's banging, and he's got a Dino's that's banging.
Open Thursday through Sunday.
Open Thursday through Sunday. Thank you, Judah. Excellent contribution you made. All right. Thank you very much. Neil Williamson, inclusionary zoning. Why I think this could be a good fit here is you've highlighted on previous shows that, you know, some of the inclusionary zoning real estate language is not your expertise. You are someone that is I'm always impressed with. When you read something, you absorb it and you ask all the right questions and offer fantastic commentary. Just need an opportunity to read it first. So my friend, why don't you begin?
All right. Well, I read Neil Williamson's article. It was fascinating, and I will explain what I understand, and you can tell me what I got wrong. So, by my understanding, inclusionary zoning involves when a government, local government usually, basically mandates that a developer, if they are going to develop housing, and is this I don't know if this is only applicable if they're planning large scale housing, but they have to include 10% of what they're going to build as low income housing.
I wouldn't call it low income housing.
Okay.
It would be housing tied to, for example, here in the city of Charlottesville, it's housing tied to AMI, 60% area median income. I wouldn't necessarily call the 60% area median income low income housing, especially when the city of Charlottesville has a median of $124,000.
Right. So rather than low income housing, affordable housing.
I would say, yes, that's fair.
And
low income housing has a different connotation.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily mean it that way. I just phrased it wrong. So the problem with that is that, in his estimation,
Not just Neil's estimation,
No,
although
no.
Neil has been ringing this bell loudly.
right. But what I mean by his estimation is that he is including information from other places. In this specific case, a UC Berkeley report that uses a simulator, very interesting simulator project, whatever this thing is, that allows someone to input a bunch of different data and make adjustments, and this simulator will basically output how those things will affect housing production.
Cause and effect.
Yeah. And what I found fascinating is that according to the simulation, and I'm reading directly from the article now, according to this simulation, total housing production drops by over 12% with the introduction of 1% of
Inclusionary zoning housing.
yeah, a mandate of 1% inclusionary zoning causes a 12% drop in total housing production. That's crazy. And I think, obviously, more local governments should know and understand that adding inclusionary zoning is not necessarily going to make the housing situation better.
So, my friend, my colleague, my co-host, the city of Charlottesville requires on projects of the development variety that are 10 units or more,
That's what it is, 10 units or more.
10% of them are required to be tied to area median income, 60% AMI, and must stay that way for 99 straight years.
So I hope that scale is sliding and not just a straight line, because I don't think you can drop housing production by 120%.
So I'm going to put this in very layman's terms. Here's what it comes down to in very layman's terms. And here's the essence of what Neil Williamson was reporting today in the Free Enterprise Forum, his commentary. Viewers and listeners, put your thoughts in the feed. Philip Dow of Scottsville, welcome to the program. At the TV station down the road watching us, and one of the local newspapers, a reporter watching us on the show today. The creation of housing is already difficult enough.
Yeah.
Acquisition. Even before acquisition, study periods, engineering, consulting, attorneys, architects, neighborhood meetings. Remember when dairy market developer Chris Henry had to go through a firing squad over the next phase of development at Dairy Market and Dairy Central?
How many apartments?
His time, and he went to a community chat at Teth and Page, only to be lambasted by the community.
And how many apartments are we not getting?
We did a very thorough analysis of that. Dairy Market, Charlottesville. I Love CVille is what I'm Googling. There's my story. I caught a lot of heat for this story, actually, from the activist community. The headline of my story was Dairy Market Development Shows Hypocritical Nature of Charlottesville Area Activists and Socialists. When I wrote that story, it went viral. I heard from the developer community, and they applauded and gave us props. I heard from the finance community, they applauded and gave us props. I heard from the real estate community, they applauded and gave us props. I heard from the activist community, and they said, "You son of a, you piece of, how can you say that?" Exactly what happened. This particular project, ladies and gentlemen, Dairy Market would have been 400 apartments or housing for roughly 600 Charlottesvillians. That's what Mr. Henry wanted to do with the next phase of development at Dairy Market. And he was going to take asphalt parking lots and buildings that were falling down and convert them into housing.
Yeah.
And I said, why wouldn't you allow this to happen?
Right.
Why wouldn't you encourage this? This would take the pressure off of beloved 10th and Page from being further developed by providing housing next to it instead of your housing that people are going to target. What Mr. Williamson has highlighted, what we've talked about on the I Love CVille Show, what Deep Throat has talked about on the I Love CVille Show, what John Blair has talked about, is when you start getting government involved in places they should not, it's just going to muck up the process. And the process is already mucked up, muck with an M, moms that are driving around with their kids in the car. You have a long process just to get a shovel on the ground. You have to deal with attorneys and architects, engineers, site work. You have to deal with city bureaucrats. You have to deal with consultants. You have to try to predict the future, where interest rates are heading, what housing needs will be needed. You may target a parcel or a piece of property or some land to purchase, but before you can even break ground, it could be years, and the market could have changed altogether.
Yeah.
Keith Smith talks about this, and he's very open about this on Real Talk, how his family lost $17 million with developing housing around Lake Monticello. They were creating housing, and they had a very fiscally conservative plan for housing in Lake Monticello prior to the 2008 housing recession, time of great unpleasantness. And then the winds shifted, and his family lost $17 million, almost everything they owned, and went through hoops and filings and a time that you want no one to go through financially. And he's very open about that.
Yeah.
By taking projects, Mr. Williamson highlights, by taking projects, these UC Berkeley Turner Center for Housing Innovation, this Shane Phillips of the UCLA Lewis Center for Regional Policy Studies, by taking projects and demanding, insisting, almost strong-arming that they be tied to inclusionary zoning and area median income levels and levels of affordability for extended periods of time, you're going to scare away development.
Yeah, and it was bad enough before. You talked about Keith Smith. I can bring up my own father.
Please do.
Who was the partner in a development company that was
You've
working.
used the names in the past. Use them again.
The name of the business.
Yeah. Who, what, when, where, why. That's the focus for any commentary you offer.
All right. My dad and his partner, Dickinson, Bo Dickinson owned.
This is your. Go ahead. I apologize.
Owned Dickinson Home and Development. They also had another company, Echelon, and by all indications, they were doing well until they stopped getting their bonds released
By the city.
Yeah, and that put them out of business. So they were working on building a neighborhood. It wasn't this wasn't like $1 million homes. This was affordable housing in the city, and it basically died because the city doesn't.
Because they ran out of money.
Because the city doesn't make it easy.
And how long was the money held?
I couldn't give you exact dates, but they were defaulting on money that they owed to pretty much everybody.
So there you go. There's the two people that you routinely see on the I Love CVille Network that were touched by the bureaucratic, archaic process of development. And if you continue to add to the BS, it's just going to make the process grind to a screeching halt or not happen at all. Mm-hmm. Mr. Williamson's been ringing that bell. This is from Deep Throat, #1 in the family. His photo on screen. He says, Mr. Williamson is too sympathetic to developers in his commentary. If 10% inclusionary zoning at limit that imply rents very close to the market levels absolutely sinks a project that would have been impossible to do at the same scale under old zoning, then the zoning was not very economically restrictive to begin with. Secondly, forcing economic agents to pay to internalize the externalities of their activity will impede their business, but we still do it. And luxury development actually creates more demand for affordable housing because the new residents consume low-wage services. I would say that 10% inclusionary zoning doesn't even cover this marginal demand. He also highlights that 60% AMI for rentals is not cheap because renter households have much lower median income than that of the overall median.
That's a great point.
I encourage you to read what Neil wrote on the Free Enterprise Forum, and I encourage you to support what that man does. I think he does a bang-up job. I would not be surprised if we look back down the road. We talked yesterday about a piece of land that Judah highlighted that's traded in an obscene multiple for what it sold for very recently.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 years ago it was like 169. Now it's
Fry Springs neighborhood.
Now it's in the 400,000 range.
We talk about the Lewis Mountain listing that traded for $1 million for a brick rancher that may be a teardown. I would not be surprised if we look back a handful of years from now and say, this was the point where things got even more expensive. And we'll point to the approval, the green lighting of upselling. And I've been ringing that bell for a long time on this platform. All right, speaking of real estate, if you want to put the next lower third on screen, the Kilwin's building is for sale. I hinted at this. I suggested this. The owner of the building is a friend of mine. His son's a friend of mine. The owner of this building's best friend is my mentor. The asking price is $1.6 million. The Kilwin's building, fantastic location on the downtown mall. It's got apartments above it. It has a cap rate of 7.49%. The total income on the building is $132,000. The asking price is $1.6 million. The owner of this building is negotiable, although he does not have to sell. Like many of the folks that own property in the downtown mall, they're in fantastic positions. Here's another phenomenon that's happening, and I'm seeing this with some of the clients we have. Depending on where you are in the age of your life, whether you're on the front end of your trajectory, or in the middle-aged, or retirement age or beyond, you look at the assets you have in very different ways or through different lenses. Someone who's like middle-aged or younger that has assets, in particular real estate, may consider this perspective. Okay, I got a guy or a gal that's willing to offer me fair market value or ahead or more than fair market value on something that I own. I'm entertaining this offer. I very well could consider selling this. But if I sell this holding, I have such tax exposure, I need to protect myself with what is called a like-kind exchange, a 1031 exchange, or a Starker exchange. They're all the same way, all the same thing. And I'm not going to bore you with jargon, but I will try to relay to you how the very small circle of real estate in this community is thinking, especially those that are not at retirement age. Someone who's savvy will utilize this 1031 exchange, which is a swap of a piece of real estate investment property for another one that allows capital gains taxes to be deferred. This term gets its name from section 1031 of the IRC code, the Internal Revenue Code. The challenging aspect with a 1031 exchange is you gotta move fairly quickly with identifying where you're gonna take the money for selling something and put it into something that's comparable in a fairly short period of time. If you do not do this exchange of properties where you take the proceeds from one sale and put it into another one, you're on the hook for some massive tax dollars. And that 1031 conundrum is genuinely impacting the sale of a lot of real estate in Charlottesville and in Albemarle County. And the reason that is the case is because there's not a lot of opportunity to exchange or roll something into that makes sense. So if you're savvy and someone who owns a piece of real estate on the downtown mall, someone who owns a piece of commercial real estate in the city or the Charlottesville or Albemarle County, most likely savvy. A lot of folks have residential real estate that they own, their personal property, for example. When you're getting in the commercial space, you're dealing with a different level, and I'm not trying to throw shade, I'm just being frank, a different level of investment sophistication. The folks are thinking, sure, that price makes sense to me, but what am I going to take the proceeds and put them into? And if there's not something that appeals to them to put them into, to roll them into, to exchange it for, you'll see a lot of deals get effed or kiboshed or halted. In this particular circumstance with the Kilwin's project, you have someone that is on the back end of their trajectory. Mr. Kavash, I'm not throwing shade to you at all, sir. You know I have tremendous respect for you. He's beyond retirement age and is living the retirement lifestyle. That's fair to say. So, my point is, you have an opportunity for maybe some negotiation and maybe a clear path for sale and to get to closing. Someone in my scenario, someone in a middle-aged or scenario perhaps, they're immediately identifying where they're going to put their money into. And if they don't have something that's going to make sense, where they're going to roll that money, despite the price being something favorable, they may pass on the deal. And that is happening a lot more now than I've seen in my 24 years of being in Charlottesville. A lot more. So, before we get off this topic, the who, what, when, where, why. The Kilwin's building on the downtown mall for sale. The asking price is $1.6 million. The cap rate just under 7.5%. There are apartments above Kilwin's that produce revenue. There's an opportunity for those apartments to become owner-occupied should you want to live on the mall. Kilwin's has proven to be a long-term tenant, although I will say this property is very much tied to that tenant, Kilwin's, having success. Should that tenant have some kind of financial difficulty with their business model, this cap rate and this investment looks completely different. Completely different. Next topic, Judah Wickower, we're going to weave you into the mix. The Albemarle County school budget, if you could put the lower third on screen, is $270 million. I want to be exact. It's $269,400,000. If you and I are at a cocktail party, why don't you come to any of the cocktail parties? I've invited you to the cocktail parties. Why aren't you rubbing shoulders at the cocktail parties, eating the pigs in the blanket, having your beverage of choice? What would your beverage of choice be? Would it be pinkies up, pinkies in the air, with a glass of Chardonnay?
No, I think lately my my drink of choice has been an old fashioned or a cherry old fashioned.
Okay, that's what. Okay, the last party we were at, which was a mixer at Marigold. I happened to order one. Summertime
is also a great time for a mint julep.
Okay,
or
so
something
Judah
like
Wickower is at
or
the
sometimes
mixer with a mint julep in his hand. He's most likely going to have a button-down shirt and a sweater on. And I come up, I have a double Angel's Envy neat. We're each scarfing down. Well, this is a high-end cocktail party. We're each nibbling some pigs in the blanket.
No escargot.
You can go escargot. I prefer I'm just an average Joe. I'll take the pigs in a blanket with some mustard. French's mustard. French's yellow mustard is my preferred.
There you go.
Not the Heinz. Give me the French's all the way.
Living it up.
What's your mayonnaise of choice?
Probably Hellman's.
Hellman's?
Yeah.
Why Hellman's?
Because I like
Not
it
Duke's?
better. I've actually got a jar of both in my refrigerator right now.
You did a taste test?
I still prefer Hellman's, but I've been using Hellman's for far longer, so it's hardly a surprise.
All right, Judah's at the cocktail party. He's got a cashmere cardigan on with a button-down shirt underneath it, perhaps the button-downs from Brooks Brothers. He's got his mint julep in his right hand with his pinky in the air, drinking the mint julep. Perhaps it's out of a copper cup, if you may. In the other hand, he's nibbling some escargot. He's got a pigs in a blanket on the plate with a scotch or a scoop of Hellman's on it. I'm sitting over there drinking
I didn't say I wanted the
Angels Envy
escargot.
neat. And I say to you, the Albemarle County yearly budget is $270 million. What would your reaction be? $270 million. Have that conversation at a cocktail party. What would your reaction be?
My reaction would be, what was it last year, and what was it 5 years ago, and what was it 10 years ago? How are they? How much are they escalating every year?
Those are great questions. So it would not be one of sticker shock initially?
I don't know enough about running a school district to really understand the size, the severity of $270 million for.
Are we in agreement that $270 million is a lot of money?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. You ask good questions, my friend. I will highlight this. The school system wanted more money.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying they're operating at a budget deficit.
Yeah.
The $269,400,000 to be exact is an increase of $9.5 million year over year and 3.6% over the current fiscal year. 3.6%. Still, Albemarle County Public Schools says they have a funding gap of over $13 million.
Partially
they're going to have to make up for that funding gap.
Yeah, partially because of the money that the state did not provide this year.
The number one line item for taxpayers in Albemarle County is schools. I encourage anyone, even if your kids do not attend public schools, to follow the money closely because you're paying for them. And when you're paying for them, you have a say in what they do. If you're a retiree, if you have no kids, if you're a homeowner, if you're a renter, if you have a second piece of property in Albemarle County that's a vacation home, if you're a business owner, private school, public school, if you're not following what the number one line item is in the yearly budget, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And if anyone in this community says you do not have a say or should not be vocalizing or offering commentary on how the tax dollars are spent, you say, that's hogwash. I'm spending my money on this too, and I have a right to say on it.
Mm-hmm.
$270 million is a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll be straightforward. I think a lot of people in this community feel the same way. The performance is not what it was.
I was going to say, should we be asking for performance reviews?
What? It seems to me performance reviews are prevalent everywhere, except they're prevalent in schools. I got to be straightforward. They're prevalent in schools. Philip Dow says Dukes all the way. Juan Sarmiento. Let's get Philip Dow's photo on screen. ilovecville.com/viewer listener power rankings. ilovecville.com/viewer rankings. Viewer rankings. Philip Dow is watching in Scottsville, Virginia. Philip, number 14 in the family. He says, Judah, it's Dukes all the way, dude. It's Dukes all the way.
Up until I moved to the East Coast, I think it was actually a different brand. So we didn't have either of those in California when I was a kid.
Is California part of the United States?
Ostensibly.
Is that part of the free union?
Until the earthquake breaks it off, and
would anyone miss California?
I would. I've got two sisters there, and some other family.
I kid because I care.
I know.
Juan Sarmiento, his photo on screen. Mr. Sarmiento highlights it's Japanese mayo all the way for him. And we need to try
Where do you get
mayo.
Is
that?
Is it
Kupai, K-E-W-P-I-E? Kupai mayo. It's the new great mayo. I've never heard of it. I appreciate the suggestion. Bill McChesney says we need a viewer's poll on mayonnaise. Hellman's versus Dukes and others. Dude, it's Dukes all the way. It's part of folklore.
Kewpie? K-E-W-P-I-E?
It's Kupai. I have no idea what it is.
I'm seeing Kewpie.
When it's all said and done,
Looks like those Kewpie dolls.
I know branding, business, real estate, media, and communication, and a lot about Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Those are my topics of expertise. I just read a boatload of stuff. John Blair, we love you. Thank you for watching the program. Holly Foster, watching the program. The Queen of Henrico. She's watching in Henrico, Richmond right now. Holly is a phenomenal person. I always love seeing her. And she gifted Judah and I enough licorice. What was the exact brand? Number 17 in the family.
Oh, man.
It's all right. It was,
Red
we'll
Vines?
call it a version of Twizzlers.
Red Vines, right?
Red Vines. Oh, there you go. Well done. Tomorrow's officially Bombay Sapphire Gin and Tonic time. I agree with Judah about mayo. We did not have Dukes in California. So she's a Hellman's gal.
Yeah, there's Best Foods is one that I think was the California standard.
Best Foods?
I
What
think
is that,
so.
the Walmart brand?
I honestly don't know.
Like grocery store
You know
brand?
how long it's been since I lived in California?
Is that a knockoff brand?
Knockoff brand.
Dukes has got notoriety. All right, let's stay focused. Stay focused, Jerry. Stay focused. I'll close with the school thing, the school conversation, by everyone who is a taxpayer that is contributing to the number one light item has a say with the schools, even if you don't have kids in the schools. And that's how democracy works. And don't let anyone marginalize or diminish your voice. If you're a retiree, you have no kids in the schools, you're not married, you have no children altogether. If you're paying taxes in Albemarle, you have a voice. Next topic. This is kind of a comedic topic. Can you put the Market Street camera on there? Local luminaries that are walking by the Market Street studio. We have a number of noteworthy local luminaries. We saw Chief Koch just before the show. Love giving a wave to the police chief.
Yeah.
Watches the program from time to time. Did jumping jacks outside the show, outside the studio.
To mock us.
No, it wasn't to mock us.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
It's one of those Judah jokes. That's what we're going to call them, the Judah jokes.
He saw us doing the jumping jacks and came over to say, hey, I saw you guys, and why don't you get up and do some more?
Juan Sarmiento says he's a Dukes over Hellman's any day of the week guy. Thank you, Juan. Me too.
Here we go. This is...
You got someone walking by there? Logan Wells Claylow, Bill
No, we don't have anything. But going back to, since we're on mayonnaise, Best Foods...
Fabian Kutner, the scion of Ludwig Kutner, just walked by.
Oh.
It was Fabian Kutner right there. Ludwig Kutner's youngest son.
They got about a half an inch of them going by. So Best Foods is known as Hellman's east of the Rockies. The mayo brand, arguably the most commonly available and most loved by everyone polled in this by this article author. They also have...
Best Foods is Hellman's, Judy.
They also mention... What?
Best Foods is Hellman's.
That's what I just said.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't listening. I should have been. Neil Williamson just posted that on the feed.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Duke's, not available on the West Coast, but I found this interesting. We included it because of all the brands. It has the most fervent fan base.
Duke's is part of pop culture. It's part of music. It's part of Southern
music?
living. It's part of it's Duke's mayo is a part of pop American culture akin to cherry pie.
Really?
Budweiser. Akin to M&M's.
Jerry is putting proof to the statement that
Ginny Who says it's Dukes
has
or
the
nothing,
most,
damn it.
has
I added the damn it. She
the
says
most
it's Dukes or
fervent
nothing.
fan base.
She also Ginny said, my response would be, show me proof that increased budget results in better education for our students. Bingo, bango.
Yeah.
Perfectly said Ginny Who. And she said, did you see the Louisa Board of Supervisors voted to defund Piedmont, Virginia Community College? I'll add a little background on this. You got a 1:30 photo shoot. I got to be mindful of that. It's on the mall. What are we talking about, a 10-minute walk?
5, depending on...
5? You walk quickly. All right, we'll go 5. Tammy Purcell, she does a Substack for Louisa County. This almost made the headlines. She covers Louisa better than anyone. The Louisa County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously on Monday night, last night, the Louisa County Board of Supervisors, to withhold $6,000 that was set to go to PVCC. And the reason they did this, I'm going to read it exactly.
$6,000?
The Louisa County Board of Supervisors on Monday voted unanimously to defund Piedmont Virginia Community College, pointing to the college's decision to allow a student group, the group was called Students for Justice in Palestine, to show a film on campus. So a activist protest group called Students for Justice in Palestine at PVCC showed a film on campus. And because PVCC brass allowed this film to be shown, Louisa County's government voted to defund its contribution to Piedmont, Virginia Community College. The Louisa County Board of Supervisors, this directly from Tammy Purcell's Twitter account, says it suspended PVCC's funding over concerns that it allowed Students for Justice in Palestine to show a film on campus. The resolution says money is being withheld pending an in-person explanation from the school. Specifically, its stance on anti-Semitism and discrimination. This is exactly what we've been talking about for 2 weeks when it pertains to UVA, and the fact that the president of the school, Jim Ryan, has offered nothing but silence, crickets, when it comes to anti-Semitism and the security and safety of Jewish students on grounds. And good Lord, anyone who watches this program knows yours truly is the #1 proponent of free speech. The conversations we have on this talk show right here, in a lot of ways, go against the grain and the ideology of the populace in the city of Charlottesville. And there's few that catch more heat because of the commentary offered in this microphone through these cameras into your social media channels than yours truly. I am the #1 proponent of free speech. But when free speech jumps into the realm of security and safety concerns with a marginalized group, a group that can often be forgotten because they're not students of color or people of color, and I'm talking Jewish students at UVA, I find that to be deplorable. I find it incredibly concerning that Jim Ryan hasn't issued a statement. Now, Louisa County's government, its Board of Supervisors, not offering to fund Piedmont Virginia Community College, I think that's kind of ridiculous.
Did you say $6,000 or did I mishear that?
No, that's Tammy says it's $6K.
I mean, that's not a whole lot. Maybe that's a lot for PVCC.
$6K, if a bunch of other jurisdictions did this, that would be a problem.
How many jurisdictions is PVCC beholden to?
Probably just not beholden. I wouldn't say beholden, but
if they
looking for contributions, probably from a lot of them in the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission radius.
Yeah, I find it a bit ridiculous too, but I don't know anything about the movie, so it's hard to comment without knowing more. If I knew more about the film, I would perhaps be more understanding of what they're doing. But yeah, it sounds a bit absurd. There's being watchful and protecting your students as you mentioned, and then there's, I think, going a little overboard. And I don't know what's in this film, but if it's it's hard to say.
John Blair watching the program. He says, my wife was born in Taiwan and immigrated to Southern California, Arcadia and LA County at age 7. When she moved to Virginia in 2008, she had her first Duke's Mayo. She says that nothing, and I mean nothing, absolutely nothing, comes close to Duke's when it comes to mayonnaise. Love you, John Blair. That's Deep Throat's photo.
They also meant what?
Did you get John Blair's photo on screen?
I can't.
Number 2 in the family. John Blair's is a little bit more.
Here we go. Here's another comment from the article. As someone raised in the South, I remember that people who liked Dukes spoke of it with religious zeal.
Louisa County's Board of Supervisors' willingness or vote to not contribute to PVCC shows the stark contrast between Louisa County and the city of Charlottesville and Louisa County and Albemarle County's urban ring, when it comes to politics across the board. Louisa, the first school system to open in Central Virginia during COVID. Louisa, very conservative in its ideology. Louisa, incredibly pro-business. Louisa, for a small government influence. Louisa, taking a stance
Yeah.
on what's happening here. City of Charlottesville stance. How would you characterize it versus Louisa's? The ceasefire resolution versus what Louisa's doing.
Milk toast.
Milk toast? Explain milk toast.
I mean, the city council initially, didn't they pass on?
And then they got bullied into voting.
Yeah, that's milk toast.
How's that milk toast?
Do you know what milk toast means?
I know exactly what milk toast means. I would just use a different description than milk toast. Explain why you think milk toast is the best description. We got a 1:30 photo shoot.
Because it's weak, timid, feeble, insipid, or bland. I mean, they didn't make a decision until they got bullied into making a decision.
That's the point I'm making.
That's milk toast.
I want you to compare what Louisa did on its own accord versus what Charlottesville did under duress.
Yeah, it's the opposite of milk toast.
That's what I thought you would say.
What?
Louisa is the opposite of what Charlottesville did.
Yeah, you were asking me about Charlottesville. How would you
I was asking you to compare the jurisdictions and how they're handling this.
I thought you were asking me to... Okay, sorry. I thought you were asking me how I would describe Charlottesville's reaction.
This is what we should follow. That'd be very interesting. If more of this happens, where it's we're not going to contribute because of this, then you're going to start seeing some Jim Ryans of the world take a stand. Ginny Who says you need to look at the content of the movie. Also, I appreciate they aren't refusing to pay the money forever. They are asking for a statement from the admins. They're holding the money as leverage.
Yeah. Well, and I can understand that. I mean, if I've been giving money to someone and they start doing something that goes against my morals or my what I agree with, then it's perfectly within my right to say, look, our beliefs no longer align. I'm not going to continue giving you money. It doesn't have to be something evil. They're not giving money anymore. It was voluntary in the first place. Then I don't really see a problem with discontinuing something like that. Although I agree, I would like to know what the content of the movie is.
McChesney says, furthering the dichotomy, Louisa was willing to adjust their property tax rate, while Charlottesville is increasing their property tax rate.
Yeah, definitely.
You could not have two more stark jurisdictions.
Right.
Stark in comparison. And they're separated by... Does Charlottesville City touch Louisa? No, it doesn't, right? It's completely... Map of Central Virginia. Charlottesville's completely surrounded by Albemarle, right?
Yeah.
Here it is. Completely surrounded. Oh. All right. We're up against the gun on time here. Here's a good trivia question. Who can name all the counties that touch Albemarle County? Can you?
Now that I'm looking at a picture of it.
Are you looking at it?
Yeah, I would never
Augusta, Nelson, Buckingham, Fluvanna, Louisa, Orange, Greene.
Mm-hmm.
Rockingham.
What's the one on the north?
Rockingham. There's 8. Rockingham, Augusta, Nelson, Buckingham.
Yeah, Rockingham.
Fluvanna, Louisa, Orange, and Greene.
Mm-hmm.
Counties that touch Albemarle. All right, we're going to save the local luminaries that walk in front of the Market Street cam right there. Put the Market Street cam on. We'll talk about the toxic social media platforms, which one's the most, tomorrow. And I want to remind you that right now Tony Bennett has zero transfer portal commitments. 0 transfer portal commitments, Tony Bennett. The only team in the Atlantic Coast Conference without a transfer portal commitment. He's Judah Wickower. I'm Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show on a Tuesday. So long, everybody.